Hello, everybody. How are we today? My name is Fabian Chigoya.
And my name is Stephanie Firminger, and you are listening to Chaminger, Becoming Exceptional.
And this is my 3 cents about hashtag ABI. Always be improving. Hey, Stephanie. How are we doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Things are great. It's the third episode of my 3 cents, and I feel like we're finally getting our groove going. Things are starting to be more natural. It's almost just now a conversation rather than a podcast and a show.
Yeah, things are really moving along. We're getting ready for launch. We didn't have the sign, which, if you follow us on social media, you may have already seen, but we just put it up today. So, very exciting.
It's exciting to see the small steps that lead to a bigger goal or something that you've been trying to achieve for a while. Seeing the progression and every day something is completed and you're one step closer is so satisfying. It's a feeling that most people crave, but they don't get in their daily lives. Let's say you're on a weight journey or weight loss journey, or you're on a journey to get better at your job, whatever it is. It's really hard to measure the day by day improvements. And so far, it's been so satisfying doing this because every day it's like, we did this, there's another video, there's another X, there's another Y. What are your thoughts on that?
It's also different because we're documenting it, which people that are working at their job, they're not necessarily like taking pictures of their or like journaling. Maybe they are, but they're not necessarily journaling or recording those small wins or the things that go on in their job every day or whatever they're working towards. They're not necessarily recording that journey. Some people that are working on their weight loss journey, they may be taking pictures every day. It's cool to look back on those things and see where you started and now where you are. So it's definitely fun to see the progression, but it'll be fun to look back on later to see how things progressed in our journey.
Yep. It's something that I'm really glad we decided to do as a part of this journey to becoming exceptional. Obviously, we're trying to show people, not just talk about it, but also show people because we're living it. There's this day to day aspect of you got to put in the work, but you always got to be trying to strive to be better. And that's really where we go back to today's topic of ABI, always be improving. That's going to be a term that you constantly hear throughout the Chaminger experience, the brand, who we are, what we're preaching, what we're talking about. And I felt, and I know you agree, that it was absolutely critical to get that in early. We're going to be referencing this and talking about this and updating this constantly throughout the journey, but people need to know what we're referencing when we talk about ABI, and we can always bring them back to this episode.
Yeah. Well, as you said, we're going to be referencing it a lot. And I love that as a hashtag. It's very easy to remember, and it will be nice to look back on this first episode of what we have to say and how it's going to continually be a topic throughout our conversations with My 3 Cents and the other shows as well. So I know that it's pretty important for you, this topic. So can you tell us a little more about why it's so important for you and how it's resonated with you?
Yeah. So ABI stands for always be improving. And it's a term that you probably are not going to find it anywhere else on Google, I hope. And you're going to start finding it only for our content. That's the goal. But if someone else had already talked about it, that's awesome because it really is the foundation of everything in my life, but it should be everyone's life.
And I think it is to a certain extent in everyone, well, most people's lives. It should be in everyone's lives, but they haven't necessarily put a tagline to it. But I would hope that most people are trying to follow that personally. But sorry, continue.
No, I agree with you. I hope so. I really do. But the grim reality of my life so far was that most people don't. And I think that was one of the biggest motivations because I had found that, and I'll share a lot more background to it shortly, but I had found that I was almost ostracized and viewed in a negative light for constantly changing who I am. Deep down, I was still the same person, but there was in society, in the people that I hung out with, the people that I met, there was almost like this taboo behind changing who you are or getting rid of habits that are who you are supposed to be. But really, they're just bad habits. It's almost like, oh, if you do something about them, you are viewed as the weirdo, the person who thinks they're better than everyone else, etc., etc. And I started realizing that why does it have to be that way? Why do we need to be the same person that we were 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is? Why can't we change constantly? Like deep down, if you talk to me, you're going to see that I still believe in the same things, but I am getting rid of the things that are preventing me from being happy, successful, confident, productive, healthy. Like I feel like there's a lot that's going to be talked about in the future throughout this journey and our brand and our business, but there's many things that are holding people back, and identifying them and acknowledging them is the first key step.
Well, I'd be curious to hear why you think that people would call you out or ask you why you are changing the way that you're doing things or the way that you are. Why do you think they were saying that? And what was your response to them?
It's interesting when someone else does something that you guys or a group of people might have always talked about but have never done. So, what I mean by that is, let's say you're hanging out with a group of people. Let's just say, I mean, I still am a gamer, but I used to be a much bigger gamer than I am today. Historically or stereotypically, it's kind of associated with more of like lazy, not so socially skilled individuals and so forth. So you're hanging around with those people and you're already more talented in certain ways than them, but they also have their talents and they're amazing people. They just haven't maybe realized it yet. There comes a point in time where you're like, well, this is only like my 2 hours a day. I'm gonna now hang out with CEOs and doctors and lawyers because that's my job. And these people don't even know that part about you, right? So let's just say you start realizing that you're developing certain bad habits or something, and you start getting rid of certain things that you see about yourself that are bringing you down. So in this example, let's talk about like you're not spending every evening just gaming and drinking and who knows what else, right? Just relaxing and not doing anything quote unquote productive. De-stressing is valuable though, guys. Now, this group of people that see you not doing it as much feel threatened. There's almost this sense of like, oh, hey, this guy's changing. He's attacking our like our sense of being who we are. Why can't you be like us? Why do you have to now be someone else? Are you saying that we're inferior, that we're not good enough, that we're bad, that there's something flawed with us?
Do you think that almost comes from a sense of jealousy, or do you think it's coming from something else?
Jealousy and insecurity. And to be completely honest, it's just you're smoking them out of their bullshit. If you did it, what's stopping them from doing it?
Yep, totally.
And most people don't want to admit that they're lazy, that they're afraid of change, that they're afraid of putting in the work. It's a lot more convenient and easy to just complain about it and talk about, I'm going to do this for 7 months straight. And then the eighth month, someone that you just met a month ago did it. You're like, wait, what? We were talking about this. Our whole like friendship was built upon just complaining about something together. And now you went up and fixed it? I can't complain about it anymore. Because if I do, it's like you proved that this is how it's done. Think about it as like if someone's trying to argue that oxygen doesn't exist or the earth is flat. Obviously, an extreme example. And then you have someone that has like pictures, videos, they went to space, they did all these things, and they're saying no. What do? Like, it's literally an attack on your basic beliefs. And I think that's where it comes from. It's when someone else does something that you are claiming is not possible, you can't really complain about it anymore.
Were there any points in your life that you maybe have an example of where the roles were reversed and that actually happened to you, where you were thinking, oh, I can't do this, and then someone else does it before you, and then you're like, oh, well, how could they do it and I couldn't?
You know, not in any people that were like in my immediate friend circle or social circle. If there was anyone that was like doing really well, I would attach to them and like surpass them. I'm a very competitive person, so that never happened in my friend circle, but it happened in my expanded circle. So like coworkers or my cousin Adrian, who was really good at medical sales. So I'm like, you hear their stories. For example, my cousin as a also as an immigrant, now as a U.S. citizen, started grinding, doing sales jobs, the crappy ones, and then grew into a successful top sales rep. Started getting prestigious positions and making a lot of money, and built a family, got a house, all that stuff. So it's like, well, what excuse do you have, right? You also have American citizenship. Why can't you do the same thing? And then, for example, in my last medical software sales job, the people were like, "Oh, it's just not possible to sell right now." And then you see one or two other people that are doing it. It's possible. I mean, there's always circumstances, and every situation is different. But you start realizing that a lot of it is mental and belief. So it really hasn't necessarily happened from like my immediate friend circle, but I've seen like extended stuff. If they can do it, I can do it.
Well, I love that there wasn't a specific event, and it was more like you're looking up to people, you're seeing that they're doing it, so now you can almost mirror what they're doing, not necessarily in their specific way, but you know that you can do the same thing. I love that it wasn't like this big thing happened and you had to do a 180 like some other things in your life that you
Yeah.
had to do 180 in. It's nice that you didn't necessarily have to do that for your journey in this aspect.
I guess I will say, thinking about it, and I know you share that other piece, growing up, being exposed to, let's be honest, very high quality individuals through my dad's work. He was a Mexican consular ambassador, and there was constant events and parties where you're meeting the U.S. ambassador, you're meeting the French ambassador, German ambassador, and like we're talking like if you rank society, because at the end of the day, a topic for another episode, but society really is based on a ranking system. Just how humans function. Doctors are up there, lawyers are up there, ambassadors are up there. It's like depending on the value you bring to the world, the money you bring to the companies and the world, like your rank goes up. And constantly being surrounded by high ranking quality, not necessarily nice people, but quality people, you start seeing certain things and you're like, okay, how do you get to that? How do you live that lifestyle? Then obviously, again, another topic is based on your location, where you live. You start surrounding yourself with like these people that are doing those jobs, are providing such value, are so smart, and you see their lifestyle and what they do, and it's like, okay, how did they get there? How did they live? I can learn to be more like that. What are their habits? What do they do every single day to find success? You start studying them, you start researching them, you start seeing it, you start experiencing, you start talking to them, you live it. And all of a sudden you see, like, okay, they wake up every day at 7 a.m. Wait, what? I don't have to wake up at 5? No. But when they wake up at 7 a.m., what do they do? They have an hour of just relaxation, then an hour of exercise, then they go to work, then they come back. Like, how is their life? You start realizing that there's certain habits and things that you can do to improve your life. And so many people just don't do them.
Well, I think it's a very valuable skill that you have, that you develop just observing what others are doing, other people that are successful, what are they doing, and how did they get to where they are, and just basically almost studying them and observing what they do and taking that in, absorbing that, being like a sponge. Hello.
Yep.
But you would think that's a super easy skill to take in. People just don't know that that's just an easy way to get better at whatever aspect you want to get better in. Just observe the people that are doing well in that aspect and mirror that or absorb that, listen to them, talk to them, take notes.
It's so interesting that it's one of the things that shocked me when I started talking to individuals and realizing that most people stop learning after they're done with college. Like it's, oh, I'm done learning. Now I'm in the real world. Now I apply everything. And I think that's why ABI can also be translated to almost like always be learning as well and always be learning from others.
ABL.
Yeah. There's so much to learn from others. I mean, you have that stereotype where they like every big business guy always says the top CEOs read 52 books a year, basically one book a week. It's just the whole point of what they're trying to get across is read more or learn more because every book is basically a person's story, like what their lessons. And if you read their lessons, you can save yourself weeks and months and years of failure in trying. It's like with cooking. If you can Google right now, like how not to burn an egg, you're like, oh, I should lower the heat. I shouldn't just cook it at 8 because then it'll burn, but it'll be faster. Oh no. You can learn from someone else's mistakes and experiences to prevent having to repeat them. And the fact that more people don't realize that just by talking to someone else that has already gone on this journey, oh, you are a business owner? Well, how was your first 3 years of business? What would you recommend, or what were the three things that you changed that almost caused you to go out of business? You ask that question to someone, they're going to talk your ear off if they're truly passionate about business because guess what? It's their job, it's their life. They're passionate about it. And that's a big topic. And all of a sudden, guess what? You go home after that if you're not taking notes right then, you take notes on it. Now you basically got their book for free just because you talked to them at a party. And instead of talking about how the weather is and how the Super Bowl went, you actually asked them about something that they care about.
Yeah, that's extremely valuable. I personally love your stories. I hope that everyone else enjoys your stories as well. So, are there any other stories that relate back to, in your specific life, that relate back to this theme of always be improving? Anything that you would love to share with us?
Absolutely. So it really comes down to my work, my previous jobs, sales jobs, because at the end of the day, people buy from someone they like and someone they trust. And how do people get to like you? You have to say the right things and you just connect with them. How can you connect with someone in a much more faster and easier way? Just know more. Especially my medical software sales job, but even my timeshare marketing sales job, it was the access of knowledge that I want to talk about. There are some specific examples that I'll get into, but I really want to just mention that access to knowledge is the game. So, what I mean by that, so there is so much information out there about things that people are just not aware of. Psychology, proper exercising techniques, the best way to eat healthy, the best way to drive a car, how to do skincare treatment, best hygiene habits, et cetera, meditation.
There's so many topics, so many different things, pretty much about anything that you're doing on a daily basis and beyond. There's so much information out there. So, how do you know what to listen to and what not to listen to?
It's it's hard to be able to differentiate what is not so good advice versus good. I feel like that's a skill set that I developed at a very early young age because of my parenting. or my parents, I guess I should say, they taught me well that part. It it requires a lot of critical thinking. It requires knowing, looking back at your experiences and just reflecting, pausing every time you receive information and be like, hey, let me double check this. So anytime I read an article, I Google it, or I check out like Reddit, or I check out YouTube, or I check out like two or three sources to confirm it or see a opposing viewpoint. Because it's so easy to believe
The
us.
first thing that you read.
Absolutely. So it's almost having the humility to be like, well, that sounds right. I agree with that, but hold on. Wait a minute. Let me check something else.
Yeah, I guess I can relate to that a little bit. For example, I find a lot of recipes on Pinterest. Hello, Pinterest. And obviously every oven is different, every grill is different. So sometimes getting the heat right, the timing, and all that stuff is touch and go. So sometimes I'll read the comments of the recipe, and sometimes people will say, oh, this recipe has way too much salt, or they'll say, I added these things and it made it a little spicier, which I like. So it's sometimes good to read other things to just see other people's feedback. Not exactly the same as what you're saying, but just reading a little more into the first thing that you read can sometimes be pretty valuable.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. It's really just expanding your perspective. I guess this goes back to the fact that I'm lucky that I traveled so much growing up. So I saw the bottom of the barrel and I saw the top enchilada at the same time. So you can kind of compare, like, well, there's a big difference. So you kind of start seeing connections, trends, commonalities. And one of the things that I really want to hammer in today is the fact that so many people, for example, that I've met, and maybe you guys have had different experiences, maybe you have, almost look down upon celebrities and actors and presidents and CEOs and certain people. And there are exceptions to everything. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But most people who get to those positions and those roles, if you actually talk to them, which I have met some high quality, high position individuals based on some of the locations where I've lived and the access that I got through my job, they are really freaking smart. Like, they are talented, they know what they did. Most people did not get lucky. And that is something that, like, I for example, the Kardashians, most people that you talk to are gonna be like, whatever. There's the people that either follow them like loyal fans and think they're the best thing since sliced bread, or the people that think they're just dumb and got lucky. They're not dumb. They are some of the best business people and marketers in the world. And if you talk to them and you talk to them about that topic, they might not be informed about everything else, but you talk to them about business and how to market and how to capture people's attentions and how to manipulate all that to get a lot of money. They are so good at what they do. And that was something that was so interesting to me because I used to think the same thing, like, oh, they just got lucky. They're just good looking or whatever. Like, they just know how to manipulate that. Most people who have that kind of level of success,
They're there for a reason.
and that's also a harsh reality check because you're like, if I'm at the bottom of the barrel, why is that? Well, you know what? It's probably because you stopped growing, you stopped learning, you stopped ABIing, always improving. And it's fixable. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just you decided to stay stagnant. You decided to be complacent. You decided to stay where you are. And at the end of the day, if you're happy where you are, then that's perfect because guess what? Most people struggle to find that.
Well, I will say that is very true about like the Kardashians. They know what they're doing, but there is also the other side where some people just get lucky, but that is not going to be sustainable. If you're not improving, you're not continually learning. Like, for example, what we're doing, if we're not continually changing and getting better and looking at what's happening in the world and social media and all that stuff, we're not going to stay at the top of our game because other things are going to come up that are better, other programs, again, other social medias. If you're not continually in that game or whatever work that you're doing or whatever's happening in your life, you're not going to continually get better if you're not continually improving or learning, etc.
People do get lucky. There are people that do. Just think about, not trying to call out anyone, but if you're born into a rich family, if you are a trust fund baby, like none of those things are necessarily negative stuff. The problem is that then you grow up in a environment that you don't really need to get better because everything is already handed to you. Now, some people, when they're growing up with a rich family, have access to the best knowledge. Their parents are already really talented and smart, so they start ingraining them exceptionally good habits from the beginning, so they are set up for success. But that's really, I guess that's where I'm going with this, that luck, there, I don't really believe in it. I just believe that you set yourself up to take advantage of it. So by that I mean, for example, most people probably were shocked that I got such a high-end medical software sales job with the experience that I had and the age that I had. The fact is that I put in a lot of work, I put in a lot of effort, I knew I could do it. And then when the moment arrived where someone finally understood me, connected with me, it resonated with him, I got the job. And then I had to take advantage of the opportunity. Like, I had to give my best interview, I had to connect with the guy, and I had to be willing to move and start over from zero. Some people might say, oh, you got lucky that this guy had the exact same background from you, was from the same hometown from you in Mexico, Oaxaca, and went to the same school like you. Sure. But I guarantee you, 9 out of 10 people who are in my same scenario would not have got the job, even with that same connection. So that's where I say, like, there's luck, but also you have to take advantage of it.
I guess where I was going with the luck thing was I was just thinking of people that have a video that goes viral and
Got it.
it could be some teenage kid that's, I don't know, doing something silly or stupid or what have you, and they have their 5 seconds of fame. And that's kind of where my mind was going when I said that.
Got it. Well, thank you for triggering me. As you can see, like, certain things start this like whole rant. I'm
You? I've never heard that. I've never heard anyone say that about you.
But I agree with you. There is so many people that go viral today because it just connected. It was just at the right moment, or someone shared, it's like, oh my God. Or we just watched a movie yesterday where it's like the proof of paranormal ghost examples. And I guarantee you, if that even happened today and it was like live stream, yeah, it would go viral. But what happens after that? That is where skill, talent, effort, work ethic come into play. And that's where you always got to be improving. Like, if you get your 5 seconds of fame or 15 minutes of fame, take advantage of it, work hard, because you skipped
so many steps, which, I mean, that's really cool, but you also have to remember to stay grounded and stay focused on, you skipped all those steps. So are you actually at that level, or are you gonna drop down and then have to build yourself back up? And maybe the second time around, you're not gonna have that, the ability to skip all those steps.
Perfect statement right there to transition to this next point. Skipping. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to My 3 Cents. This concludes this part. We hope the stories were as impactful for you as they were for us. We are so excited that you're experiencing this journey with us to become exceptional. Please remember to leave a comment on your thoughts. Did our perspective connect with you? What was your favorite part? You know the drill. Check out our website at www.chaminger.com and follow all our social medias to get the full Chaminger experience. My final 3 cents for today. Please subscribe and follow our podcast, and tune in next week to hear more of our stories and crazy but insightful perspectives. You don't want to miss it. Be you, be free, stay amazing.